What are you gonna do about that?
Talk to me a little bit, what was it like going into season 2, knowing that season 1 was such a hit? Like, I could imagine that it made going out as a cast really hard.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I think that was part of the beauty of making season 1 is that we had absolutely no idea if anyone was going to watch it, if anyone was going to care about it, if anyone was going to talk about it. So we were just kind of making the story for ourselves and trying to make the best thing possible, and that's all that mattered. So going into season 2, I was hoping that on everyone's part, it was the same, the same feeling that we were just going into it, trying to make something great again, not even thinking about the outside world or what people should expect, or not thinking about how many eyes are going to be on it, which is easy to think about while you're making it, but just trying to put that aside and just focus on making a great story again. So that's what I think, honestly. But
yes,
yeah, a lot more people cared though.
Well, again, when people see, like going out as a cast though, must have been really hard, because when people see you together, they'll probably immediately freak out.
Yeah, a little bit. There were a couple of times where we'd just be like grocery shopping at like Costco or Target or Walmart or something, and we would just have people recognize us. And it was like, it's a weird thing too, as someone who's like never had to go through that, because it's like, I'm just getting some cheese. You don't need to get a picture. It's not that special. But then it's also very sweet, the things that people will say to you and how the story has impacted their lives. So it's great too.
On the flip side of that, I went to a Green Day concert by myself, but like I thought I was so famous, and I was like, oh my god, like this is gonna be so bad, like everyone's gonna recognize me. And I did take like a few photos after the concert was done, but then this couple turned to me and was like, can I get a photo? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, you're not gonna take a photo of me, and I just want to get a photo with me and my husband, like. And my friend started laughing at me, so that was a big this is a big reality check.
Yeah, there was I remember like right after the show came out, Tim and I saw Chance the Rapper in San Diego, and right after the concert ended, we got mobbed with people to the point where like stadium security had to pull us aside and like take us to a VIP room to make sure that we were okay. And it was, I don't know, it was
I was like,
so
you're just saying
weird.
you're more popular than your co-star.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Look, Alisha, I'm just saying.
One more story, please.
I think for you guys, the challenge must have been, because you went through season 1, you feel like you know your character. You're like, okay, I'm building this character. I know exactly who Zack is. I know exactly who Jessica is. And then you're getting these scripts for season 2, and you're like, well, I didn't know anything at all, because everything's turning on me. What was that like?
I think that's kind of the beauty of it, honestly, is that we have this ability to explore these characters and to build more of them.
Yeah, it's exciting as an actor. You wanna be surprised, and you wanna be inspired by the scripts, and we have a great writing staff. And
Yeah.
One of you guys want to say something?
Dylan's diva is making me hold the microphone as he answers the question. Sorry.
I've answered already.
His hands are insured.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Yeah. What is the question?
I think Ross might have had
I did, but I was. Okay. All right. Well. What was the question? Characters and knowing.
Not knowing. Yeah. Thinking that you know what your character, but not really knowing.
Right. Okay. So like I knew what was gonna happen with my character, but I didn't know when and how. And and then I also didn't want to tell anybody else, so that like when we went to the table read, we'd all experience it together. And that was fun. Like at the table reads, we'd be like, oh, what? And then that was great.
Yeah.
That was a great recreation of our
because you already knew about Zack and Hannah.
Yes.
But these guys didn't. So who was like the most surprised by that development?
I knew early on. That was the one. Thanks, guys. That was the one secret that Brian told me early on, and I was just immediately super intrigued and also nervous about how Clay would react to that. And I think the reaction that he gives when he goes and confronts Zack about it is I think you would expect from Clay, but is also really out of line. Hannah was her own person and could make her own decisions. Clay just couldn't handle that truth, and all those elements of truth definitely take a toll on Clay. to the point that he doesn't even think he knows what the truth is anymore. Yeah, I don't know. A lot of it was really surprising. A lot of it was surprising for Clay, for me as well. I mean, I knew Clay was going to go in some sort of downward spiral, but I didn't think he'd be, ending up outside of Bryce's house with a gun to his head. And that was definitely difficult to shoot, but I think it made sense for Clay. I mean, he's got a lot of inner demons. But yeah, anyway.
I have to say though, Ross, episode 6 was one of my favorites because it also tonally felt a little different than the rest of the season. I kind of made a comment today that it's literally the teen rom-com that we deserve. Like, I need like an entire season dedicated to like the Zack and Hannah year, like the summer of Zack and Hannah. What was that like working with Catherine on that? Because you guys had such a great dynamic, and it did feel a little bit more jovial than maybe the rest of the season.
It was a nice little intermission in the middle of the season. No, it was great because Kat and I, we just like with everyone else, we bonded over the last 2 years that we've known each other, and we kind of have similar senses of humor, so it made shooting awkward sex scenes a lot more fun and not as awkward. So, it was just all around good time. We got to eat ice cream and walk and hold hands and fun stuff.
Yeah. Have your Dawson's Creek moment by the pier. It was great. Cool.
Dawson's Creek. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Dating.
Never watched it, but
Sorry,
there's a
I'm
creek
old.
involved, and I'm sure there's a dock. Dawson and her creek.
Yeah. Similarly, though, Dylan, your Clay's relationship with Hannah really changes this season because obviously he sees her as an apparition, as this figure. Finding that dynamic, so you and Catherine had built up such a great relationship in that first season, and then I think it changed in the second season. What was it like, the changing nature of their relationship?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a task in terms of just figuring out what's the best way to play the dynamic between Clay and Hannah this season when Hannah is purely in Clay's mind. Because in season 1, you're not just telling the story of Clay in the present day listening to the tapes, you're also telling the story of, for Clay and Hannah, showing how their relationship evolved and how it fell apart. And it's its own kind of separate story, its own show in its own right. And this season didn't really have any guidelines. It was just sort of Hannah was a reflection of Clay's thoughts, and it was his conscience, and it was like, how do you navigate that? And I think it was a big team effort with Brian, the showrunner, and Michael Morris in particular, one of the directors who came and sort of shot all those scenes with us. It was a lot of work, but I mean, Catherine's so great and talented, and makes it really easy to play off of her with those scenes. But it's tricky. You don't want it to. You don't want it to play too much like she's a ghost, and you don't want it to play too somber because it just feels extremely melodramatic, and it's kind of hard for it not to feel a little melodramatic, but it's just we wanted it to feel real for the most part, and you wanted it to feel like how Clay and Hannah would actually be conversing in these situations, to make her really feel like who Clay remembers her as. And that's why it makes it so much harder to live with her there, especially when she starts just reciting Bryce's tape to him later on. It's just spiraling out of control, and it's just all a reflection of how kind of tortured Clay is, what a tortured soul he is. But by the end of the season, I think Clay is finally on some sort of path to recovery, and maybe it will find peace one day. But I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he has a brother now. Very excited about that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, crazy.
I especially love that development. Devin, though, I want, again, your performance this season truly incredible.
Thank you.
I know you've all individually talked about how Brian had talked to you about your storylines and your character arcs. So when Brian had told you what a real tragic turn Tyler would take this season, what were your initial reactions? Like, what went through your head?
I remember the first time Brian had kind of talked to me about Tyler's storyline was actually last year when we were doing season 1. I remember specifically we had just gotten the scripts for, I think, 11 and 12. So we were shooting 9 and 10, I believe, and I got the scripts for 11 and 12. And as soon as I'm reading in 12, there's a scene where Tyler buys the handgun, and I was kind of immediately shocked. And at the same time, I was like, why does this make so much sense for this character, for this to be the route that he's going down? And so Brian asked if he could speak with me, and we talked, and he was basically like, so if we get a season 2, we're thinking that maybe Tyler's storyline would devolve into a storyline regarding gun violence and the sort of implications of that. And Brian was always really interested in the mental health and the psychology behind a young man who's thinking about committing such a tragic thing and making such a dangerous choice rather than the worst possible way it could turn out. And I think he had even told me that the writer's room was working on this in April before we'd even started season 1. So that's like April of 2016 this idea has been in place. So, getting to season 2, it was, it's very intimidating to, have to kind of embody such unfortunately, such a common issue, especially for young people these days. But, you also have to think about the fact that these tragedies are happening so frequently, yet for some reason they're talked about for 2-3 weeks, and then the flame kind of burns out and no one seems to care anymore. So us as a show, from season 1, I think, I can't speak for my friends here, but when I started season 1, I didn't really realize how much of a social impact it was going to be. For me, I thought that we were just doing, a young adult series that was going to be, an adaptation of a book. But as an actor, it fulfilled me because I did have an emotional connection with it. And that's what you want as a performer. You want to make something that people can connect to emotionally. But I don't think it was until after this show came out that I realized the impact that it actually had and how it was actually helping people. And so then going into season 2, especially with this storyline, I was like, this is a topical thing, and hopefully this can again be a platform for engaging that conversation with young people, and for the conversation that's happening right now to hopefully keep it going and keep it relevant so that it doesn't die out, so that we can hopefully work towards a solution for it.
And then finally, and this is for all of you, because you're all in one of my favorite scenes of the season. You're not. That's true. I apologize. It's the dance. It's the scene that happens at the dance. Because I think fans have
It's
really
a beautiful scene. I was on set for it. I think we had there was the tent outside with the TV on it with like a live feed, and I was watching it, and his performance and the looks on their faces, especially as soon as Tony realizes what song is on, and that level of empathy and care for your friends is something that I think really shines in this season as characters learn how to be there for each other and have that sense of community. And watching it happen, even knowing these guys as being actors and my friends, watching them as their characters be there for someone else, it was really heartwarming. It made me tear up a little bit just watching.
It's a funny thing though, because I know when you're filming it, and I've been on set, they're not playing any music, but you're so clearly emoting to the emotions of that song.
They played that song.
That was actually like the one time they did like play the song in full.
There's no dialogue.
There's no dialogue. So we actually were listening to the song in that moment. But you're right. Normally it's very awkward. There's no music playing. For the rest of the dance, there's really no music playing. We're just yelling all these lines in front of all these people, and you're just like, God, I'm being so judged right now. But
The shooting of that moment.
You have a mic.
Oh, you're right.
They handled that very well. They were very,
Scene?
the shooting of that scene, they were very diligent about taking care of all of us, and even the extras that we had, 200 plus extras, they were very dedicated to that moment, and they know the import of that song too, so I think everyone was in the same space for that.
Yeah, Courtney, or Michelle, who plays Courtney, and we were talking about it, and we were like, for us to cry, we just looked at Tony, because when you broke into the circle and like he hugged Clay, we were just like, oh man, the tough guy is breaking, and yeah.
there were lots of Tony tears on my jacket.
That's terrible.
Lots of Tony tears.
My jacket is stained with this.
Look at that. What a friendship.
Well, this is awkward.
Yeah. You
I
all
feel-
love each other. I love
Our
it.
jackets are stained with each other's tears.
I feel like that's very appropriate for their two
right.
reasons why.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, it was a beautiful scene. Dylan, you did a great job. Looking
Thanks.
dejected.
Thanks.
and
Everybody was
heartbroken.
great.
Yeah.
Everybody's great this season.
Yeah.
Truly. No, that's something I'll add. What my favorite thing of this entire season is all the performance from everyone here and everyone else in the cast. Like, I just think everyone completely brought it this year, and I'm proud to be working alongside these folks. Very much.
didn't really realize how much more talented a group of people could be. It's insane.
The Beatles.
I know.
Yeah. Wow.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm trying. It's really hard. I'm really young, and I'm trying my best, and I'm sorry. No, I said I'm from the country.
Thank you guys so much.
The most sarcastic, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you guys so much.